Hey everybody, this is Karen Barbie, the baby boomer belly dancer, and I'm coming to you today right out of one of our massive performahearsal weekends where we were dancing on Saturday night with some rock and roll music, and then on Sunday with our super special musicians. The guys from Houston came in, the Gafour brothers, and Kamal Dayesh here in San Antonio was singing, and we had from San Francisco our virtuoso violinist here on my left, George Lammam. So, of course, I have to get him in here for a podcast while he's in town. Now, also coming in from out of town were some of our project band gals, and one of them is Debbie Smith, who's with us here from Arkansas. She was here for the whole weekend. And I just decided if we're going to do these podcasts, one is going to be focused primarily on me and George. Another is going to be focused primarily on me and Debbie. But we all know each other, and we've known each other a really long time. So we're just going to stay in this this damned room together for a long time and get all this done. But first off, we're going to focus on George, okay? And George, I was reminding you, this is my show. So we're going to talk about you as you intersect with me. So,
absolutely.
So we've cut this up 1,000 ways. We've had to stop ourselves so that we can have a more organic conversation in this room. But you and I actually met in the late 80s, yes, in Houston, Texas.
Yes.
At Cleopatra.
Cleopatra.
Now, you did not live in Houston. So I want you to talk a little bit about, okay, so we're going to back it up here, George. I'm going to turn it over to you for a while here.
Okay.
I want you to just kind of tell us a little bit about yourself, how you came to the United States, and get us up to that point where you got to Cleopatra in Houston, okay?
Yeah. Well, I was born in Lebanon from a Palestinian father and Palestinian mother, and both my parents are involved into the art. My father worked in the movie industry in Egypt in the 50s, knew a lot of artists, a lot of singers. And my mother was a singer, so she sang in Lebanon behind singers. She actually was a backup singer, and also she had her own career in Cyprus, actually, when there's a radio station called إذاعة الشرق الأدنى. It's a Middle Eastern broadcast from Cyprus. Mm-hmm. So we all grew up actually in the music. Mm-hmm. I remember going with my mother to the studio, watching her recording, and she told me, when you see that red light, you just don't breathe. And I took it seriously and I wasn't breathing. Yeah. I was sitting in there and see all the orchestra playing, especially the violins, and I fell in love with the violin that very young. And then, of course, the situation in Lebanon was very bad, so my parents decided to move to United Arab Emirates, specifically Dubai. There I have the opportunity to learn music in the school. Actually, I started playing the accordion first for like 6 months because that's the instrument was available at the school that time. But the teacher, he was a violinist, and he told me, no, you should try maybe some other instrument, since my younger brother also was playing the accordion too. So, and he played the violin in front of me, and I fell in love with the music, with the violin itself. So I started taking violin lessons.
And how old were you around this time?
13.
13.
So okay. I wasn't that young when I started, but the music in our blood from the beginning, because of my mother and my dad and the love of music, we always used to sit down and listen to live broadcasting, specifically actually Kulthum. So I started my career in Dubai. Learning, I was part of the national orchestra there for 2 years, which is I get a lot of practice and a lot of experience with playing. And then I created my own band in Dubai. We started working in nightclubs, all the nightclubs and 5-star hotels there. I had a group called Golden Stars Band.
Okay.
So and then I want to do something else in my life. So my older brother Tony was studying in the United States, and he liked it here. He said, "Why don't move to the United States?" And I came here, and of course everything was different for me because I had a successful actually career in Dubai that time. But I was limited of traveling because originally I'm Palestinian, so my status was as a refugee. It's very hard to go anywhere. So I came here, and it opened so many doors for me. I came actually first to Miami, because my uncle used to live in Miami. And then we got
Was Tony in Miami?
Tony was in Miami too at that time.
Okay.
and we got opportunity to go to California to work in a club, actually in Oakland, California. After working there for a month, I didn't kind of like it. I came back to Florida, and there's another club opened, and a guy called me to come and play there. And this is when I stayed longer in San Francisco. And I like San Francisco a lot because it reminded me of Lebanon, you know, the weather, the Mediterranean atmosphere, the multiculture there. I started working in nightclubs, but then I started also doing other things by creating my own production company, where I start actually recording and do music with not only Arabic music, but also with other different musicians from different culture.
So you started that way back.
Way
so
back
you've been fusing for a while.
Yeah, actually, go back a little bit. I'm going a little bit ahead of myself. Starting a little bit, which is this is how I came to Houston again, and I met you here. So I came to the United States in 1987. So between here and there, and then I met Jabbour actually, the one who owns Cleopatra. I met him in San Francisco. He came to that club to work there, and we became very, very good friends. And then when he opened his club, Cleopatra said, "I want you to come and live here and
that is so crazy.
And play here." So when I came here, and then you were actually dancing there. This is when we met.
Right, right. And Jabbour, we still work with him to this day. He's like the featured singer in Houston, Texas, and it's always so, I don't know what, just mind-boggling to me every year when we have our show and I see you guys up on stage together, because there's just so much history. And I just thought there was history because you guys had worked together in Cleopatra when I was in Cleopatra. I just in the last year or so learned that story about you being in Cleopatra because Jabbour met you in San Francisco at another party or gig or whatever and invited you to come there. So how long did you work at Cleopatra? Do you know? Because in those days, they were cycling musicians in and out of those clubs like crazy. You know, they had apartments for you. Yeah. They had apartments for the dancers. And I mean, it was a big deal. There was just a constant rotation of talent.
I worked there for 3 months.
Just 3 months?
3 months.
Lucky me.
5 nights a week.
I was there during those
5 nights a week. And I decided to go back to California because I wanted to be in a place, I was like, confused where I want to be really, which place, which state is going to be my base where I'm staying. So I decided to be in California because of the multiculture of the, and then when I start doing that, recording and stuff with other musicians. So now I have 5 different groups I'm involved with, including the Arabic band and including my own production company, which is, I called it after my mother, Amorphia Productions. So San Francisco became my base, but I still travel everywhere. It's like coming here. It's always fun to come here and work with you. Whereas with different also dance companies and work. Also, I do concerts and stuff without dancers, so it's only focused on the music.
And a lot of educational stuff. Everything. Because I mean, you are and have always been a musician.
Always.
Right. It's not like not like me, where I did my tour of duty in the corporate world or whatever. No, you have always been a musician. Yeah.
Always a musician.
That's incredible. Now, all right. So we met in Cleopatra in the late 80s because I just happened to be dancing there during that short time you were there. I don't know why I just assumed you'd been there longer. But anyway, that's fine. And then I swear you blipped off of my radar until, now Debbie, this is where.
Yes, exactly.
Until Dallas in 2000. So that was 11 years later. I really think you were gone. I knew who you were and I'd see that you were doing things or whatever, but we didn't have a chance to work together.
Yeah, exactly.
Until 2000. That's when Tambra had an event. Shireen El Safi was a teacher. You and your brothers, both Elias and Tony, were there, and some other musicians. And it was a big deal because this band was there to play live for the dancers. And that's when I remember you played Setel Hosn. I can hear the arrangement in my head because it was really different. And that's when I first met Elias. That's when I reconnected with you. And I can remember standing in the hall. This is how vivid it is. Standing in the hall, you're introducing me to your other 2 brothers because I'd never met them. And you said, this is a little bit funny and pompous on my part, but I intend it to just be funny. He said, "This is Karen Barbie. She's one of the best dancers in Texas." And I said, "Texas?"
Texas only? No.
Yeah, that was funny. So that was when I refound you.
But Karen, we saw him in 1997
We
on stage
did,
at
at
the
a
conference.
distance.
At a
Yes.
distance.
At the conference,
Did
at
you
distance,
recognize him then from
Absolutely.
Cleopatra?
Absolutely. I remembered him from Cleopatra.
Yeah, there's a conference before Texas. The conference where I
Well, that was
involved in.
1997, right?
Yes,
Karen?
that was the
Yeah.
first international, what was it called?
International Conference on Middle Eastern Dance. It
Right.
was organized by Sahra and Shireen Al-Safi and Angelique
Yes.
Nemeth.
True, right.
It was in
So-
Orange County College. Right?
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yes, yes. And you were playing there, was it just with Amani's band?
Amani
Yeah, you
and
played with
Saeed.
Mona.
Mona Saeed.
And Mona
too.
Saeed, right,
She was a
right,
guest
right.
from Egypt.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I remember Amani, she was going to bring her own musicians. They couldn't come. So we had to actually play for her. So we did rehearsals with her and stuff to see what she wants to dance to. And I think that was... and I remember it was so well attended. I mean, like 900 dancers were there.
Oh
or
my
something.
God,
It
it
was
was
packed.
massive.
Yeah,
And,
massive.
Yes.
and none of us who were there, like, I'll never forget that night, really. It was kind of electrifying for multiple reasons. But I think your band was you and Omar Farouk,
Exactly,
Takbilek,
yes.
and your brother Tony. And
Now,
wasn't there one?
Michelle Haj, her keyboard player
Yeah,
was
I was going to say
there.
her keyboard
Yeah.
player
That's
was
true.
there,
Uh-huh.
but I'm missing one person.
And an Oud player, I think his name Khouri. God, his last name is Khouri. Oud player. I actually
Yeah.
knew from Middle Eastern camp,
Yeah,
and I hired him to come and
yeah.
be
Yeah.
with us.
That was amazing, and the theater. I mean, it was just huge.
It was
Huge
huge.
theater.
And I
yeah.
remember, we sat as close as we could, but I was way in the back. It was really, yeah. I'm sure there's been nothing like it since. I know they've had another.
They had a second one, which
Yeah.
you didn't go to that one.
I did. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think we both did, right?
See, this
That-
is funny. Like we so vividly remember the first, and we're like, "Were you at that second?"
By the time the second one happened, I was living in San Francisco, and they were bringing like Mahmoud Reda and Farida, and then Nagul Fuad, right? And I think it was 1999, the second one, correct? Or 2000?
I don't think it was 2000. I think, I don't think it was 2000.
Maybe 2001?
Maybe.
I don't think it was after 9/11.
I don't know.
but
Right?
Anyway,
we don't
by
want to
that-
pick up our phones right now and Google that.
So-
but
No, but
But it's happened only twice, right?
only twice,
Yeah.
and then it
Twice.
stopped.
can you imagine how much of an undertaking that is? I mean, I think we've all produced events. That would be like,
Oh my God.
but anyway, it was great. It
Yeah.
was
It
really
was great. It was great. And so that little reconnection sparked, like, I haven't lost you since.
Yes.
Because 2 years later, you and Elias and a Qanun player named Fuad,
Fuad.
Fuad
and
Marzouk.
who else? Reda Darwish.
Reda
Yeah,
Darwish was
yeah,
us,
yeah. Anyway, you guys came to town and played a show for some of my dancers, and then we did it again in 2003. And then I remember that was about the time my mom was starting to have a lot of health challenges. And
Is that
so,
was a theater called Jump Start or something?
Yes.
Yes, I remember.
look at that. The guys played at Kennedy Center, and he remembers Jumpstart Theater in San Antonio. I'm
Aw.
really impressed.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. And so we kind of had that going. And then I had to back off of that for a while for all of the family stuff. And then, okay, when did life goes on. You were gone again for a little while. And then this whole curriculum at my studio about live music and improvisation started coming around. And that was around 2012. And that's when I started working with the dancers, with the musicians in Houston, because they're close by. And we would work with them, and that's just keyboards and percussion, keyboards and percussion, keyboards and percussion. And over time, it started occurring to me, we need to start introducing other instruments, because it's about how they're hearing the sound, all of the different sounds they're hearing, all of the different tracks they're hearing, being able to manage that. And so I think I reached out to Nasser first, and this is something funny too. I need to say this. Every cool musician I've met has been because I know you. Like, after you guys were here in 2002, you said you need to come and see what Cassandra does in Minneapolis.
Exactly.
And so later that year, I think you guys were here in July, probably the next month is when Cassandra had her show in Minneapolis. And so I went and I met Nasser Musa. I would have never met him in any other way. And so bam, he just becomes a part of the team. We fold in Nasser. And then same thing with Michael Ibrahim, when I was trying to find somebody who can play the nai, and I was talking to Nasser about it. It's like, well, George is doing that thing with Cassandra again. Like, this is not that long ago, but it was because of you and your association and work with Cassandra that I've picked up Michael Ibrahim. Okay. So yeah, I mean, all of that, all of those musicians have been because of you. But when I started working with the project band idea and this improvisation idea and wanting to build on adding to the musicians from Houston, excuse me, allergies. I think I pulled in Nasser first. I don't know why. I think just because he would call me and see how I was doing, and you never did. So,
but Karen, was that after you had brought Elias and George that one time?
It was.
That was after that, right?
Oh, way after, actually.
Because we did that early.
That was like 2002, you said?
Yeah. And then we separated somehow.
Right.
And then you start working with the musicians down here. And Nasser he used to tell me I'm going with Karen and stuff. And then
see, you should have asked about her.
One of the
Karen,
years,
how are you?
Karen called me. You want to come?
I did. I remember I was teaching a workshop in Florida, and I mean, I can remember where I was standing. I was standing amongst all the vendors. I just had this idea. I was standing amongst all the vendors, and I was like, I need to add George to our show next year, because Nasser had already been coming for a couple of years, and so I called you from Orlando, Florida, and I was like, hey, give me a quote. What would it take to get you to do all this stuff? And so we added you to the mix. I want to say that was around 2012 or 13.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And here we are. That's been almost a decade. What? 2000. What are you talking about? See, he's just holding up numbers. Yeah.
Since then, actually, I didn't miss any year.
You have not missed a year. You have not missed a year. And now look, I mean, here you are in San Antonio. We just did this thing last night with the guys from Houston, and it's not even the big show. You know, now we're just bringing you in for the hell of it.
No, I was here last November. I came to Houston.
Exactly.
Yeah,
you were here in November too. Now this has to do a little bit though with how our states are so different in pandemic times, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, because things are a little bit more open in Texas, and certainly in Houston, Texas, than they are in Northern California, or at least they have been so far. So we don't want George to get lazy. So we just keep bringing him to Texas so that he has things to do. Yeah. And, you know, you've been a great help with the dancers, with the workshops and all that because, okay, let's talk about this for a little while. Mm-hmm. See, this is how it goes. You just kind of roll with it. Just kind of roll with it.
Like dancing.
It is. It's exactly. And improvisation for sure. So when you were over in the UAE and all of that, did you work with dancers?
Absolutely, all my life.
All of your life, you've been playing for belly dancers.
That part of my career, not only dancers, I told you, also singers, famous singers, dancers from all over the world used to come to these clubs and work, from Russia, from England, from Germany.
And so this idea of dancers trying to pull you in as part of their education, was that something that started once you came into the United States?
Well, I think the dancing in the United States, I have to admit that the dancers actually put the music to the Western ear to hear it, because, you know, when you see video clips of songs and stuff, you always see dancers in it, right? And I think it was easier to reach the Western ear by having the Arabic music and have a dancer in front of it. So expression of dancers' movements to the music. I think it helped a lot by bringing Arabic music front to the scene. That's in my opinion.
I love that idea, and I love that it's a musician saying it. You know, so more than one sense is engaged. You know, so you've got sight and sound, and so this music that might otherwise, I know when I would be playing it in my home growing up as a kid, my mom would be like, is that the same song you're playing over and over? No, actually, it's several different ones. But if you're not used to it, it all starts sounding the same. Yeah, so that's interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. It helped a lot to bring the music to the listeners. But now, actually, I do shows and concerts with no dancers. Still, people interested in the culture. And you know, I toured many places with different musicians, different groups, different projects, where the reaction of the audience were amazing to the Arabic music. They always audience always tells me, "Oh my gosh, that touched my heart," and stuff. Of course, it's different to music. They didn't grow up with it, but it still touched them somehow because of the beauty of the music.
And you're good at what you do. Okay, so I think that, and I'm kind of proud to be a part of spoiling the South Texas community with this level of music because, and my dancers. I mean, they early in their dance careers, they can become little music snobs because they work with some of the best. But it makes a massive difference. You know, if you're just listening to some, I don't know, guy who's only been playing for a little while and he figured out on YouTube how to play this on a keyboard, so he recorded it and put out an MP3, and that's what you're using, then the depth of that is so shallow that it's hard to even convince yourself that there is an appreciation that you should even have for that kind of thing. But when you hear music that has so much texture and so much emotion, and it's you can't deny it. It's there. And then if you can see it being created by those musicians, it resonates at a level that affects everything you do as a dancer. And once you've witnessed that, much less been on stage and tried to work with it with your own body, there's nothing else will do. See, this is my goal. This is my goal. And because I think that for me, the whole reason the live music thing became so important was I was trying to recreate for my dancers what I perceived to be the biggest growth spurt in my career. And that was hands down when I was working with the musicians on a regular basis in the club, watching them create that music, watching how seriously they took it and the how many ways they could play the same song and all of that kind of thing. My listening got so strong then. So I'm trying to recreate that for my dancers. And it's about bringing in that level of professionalism, your level.
And you don't know how much I appreciate you, and you're always thinking about live music in your show, because there's a lot of, not only that, but also, you know, it's more expensive, as you know, to bring musicians and dealing with the musicians.
No comment.
But to bring live music, this is, I mean, what you're doing is amazing, and I appreciate it big time. So
well, thank you.
Every time you pick up the phone, you said, you're coming, without even question, I'm coming for live music.
Well, and that's, you know, but for anybody who wants to be a good dancer, at a certain point, you hit a wall if all you're working with is recorded music. You really do, whether you realize it or not. You hear that? Anybody listening to me? You really do, whether you realize it or not. And only if you've given yourself the chance to work with live music, and I mean quality live music, do you realize how far beyond that wall you can go. And so I just want to introduce that to as many people as possible, because and it's funny, when I started working with Michael and some of his contemporaries at the National Air Orchestra, that's the first time I started meeting really young musicians interested in this music. Most of the ones I know are my contemporaries. You know, we're all baby boomers, you know, and I get concerned about that. Like, what happens if you decide you don't want to do this anymore? Or, you know, the guys in Houston decide they don't want to do this anymore. Where is the next influx of musicians? And I don't see a lot of them. And so I feel like if the demand is there from anyone, from the audiences that appreciate it, whether they're dancers or not, or certainly from the dance community, then the next generation will reveal themselves.
And also, it's been tough for the musicians through the pandemic, big time. You know, because the musicians need an audience to play, and of course all the quarantine and stuff made it very hard. I was actually interviewed by this Arab Talk from San Francisco. They have a radio show every Thursday, and I did it on Zoom with him, and he was asking me how you dealing with this problem. I told him it's not easy. I mean, we try to do shows on Zoom. It's not the same to play with other musicians on Zoom. You have to be in the same room to connect and to play in unison together. But things now, hopefully it's going to get better.
Right. But I am so glad you brought that up, because I mean, the whole idea of performing for people in the room with you, so you can have that exchange of energy and you can see their reactions. And and I've been in a lot of podcasts here lately where this topic comes up, of course. And my young little whippersnapper people in their 20s and 30s, when they're in this room, they're like, oh, but I think we can simulate it. No, you cannot. You cannot. If that is what this race is evolving into 100 years from now, I'm so glad I won't live to be 158 to see it, because I don't understand how it can even approximate that feeling that you get when you're like, I didn't like the damn plexiglass in between us yesterday, you know? I mean, the musicians are up on a stage and there's this plexiglass so that you won't, I don't know what, exhale on whatever's going on down there and pass your particles. But it was thin and it was open somewhat, and it was clear. I mean, I could see you, but I still felt like something was missing, you know, because of that power that you feel when it's just right there on stage with you. So yeah, Zoom, forget about it. And for my purposes, and we've talked about this challenge, for a project band, I'm looking for these tiny nuances of the dancer catching things in the music. Timing is a big deal. Right. And when you've got that nanosecond or 2 or minute delay going on because of the cyber world.
That's actually what happened with Zoom. Yeah. Actually, I did a show, belly dance competition on Zoom. Actually, it went very well, but we were able to do it. It was amazing, actually. Because people are desperate. They want it,
There was no lag at all.
Sure, there was.
Show.
You just got used to it.
We can't hear it, but the audience was there.
They perceive it.
Yeah. I've received some calls. It wasn't together. So.
Yeah,
well,
right.
Because that's what you do.
Yeah. And so for general dancing, you know, I think because for me, what I see in the dance world is it's very rare for dancers to get the experience to work with live music. It didn't used to be that way, but it certainly is here in Texas. I'm assuming, I don't know if you probably don't hang out in the clubs in San Francisco anymore. Well, there's nobody hanging out in the clubs in San Francisco right now, but even before the pandemic, when dancers performed, I mean, you guys would have specific shows where it was a dance show. And how often would y'all do that?
Because for years, I've been running this once a month in North Beach in San Francisco. A show in a place called Peña Pachamama. Actually, the place is Bolivian, but it's a tiny place that's so successful. It's like you can say it in the 60s underground thing going on, and the dancers loves it because they come and experience dancing to live music. And you gotta sign up, and actually the dancers were so happy. So we have so many. Actually, we just eliminated only to 8. Otherwise, we can have 20 or 30 dancers there.
Yeah.
Right.
They loved it because they want a dance experience. So I did that show especially for the dancers to give them opportunity
to feel that live music.
And it was very successful. And hopefully we'll go back again to it soon when they open.
And you initiated that?
I initiated it. Yes, exactly.
Now, how come I'm having to do all this here?
Well, but Amina was always involved from the beginning, right?
Amina was involved from the beginning,
least with dancer scheduling or something.
Dancers and a lot of.
And she played on stage with you. Yeah. She and Susu.
Her daughter Susu, well-known percussionist. But we have actually a lot of dancers were passing by San Francisco. Well-known dancers, and they performed there.
Absolutely.
They it.
Yeah, if I was passing through, I'd time it to match that.
Big names.
It's a tiny place too, like very tiny. How many tables do they have?
Well, you can fit 50 people there.
50 people, and the bandstand is. I mean, it's
they have
very
a nice stage
intimate.
for the band.
Yeah, they have a stage for the band.
The sound is great.
The dance space is small, but it's very. It was like being in a cave.
Very intimate.
You know,
intimate scene.
Very
great food. It's like old style, you know. Cabarets where you go there and enjoy the music and the eating and the drinking.
And the owners, you know, Quentin and Eddie, the Bolivian couple who own it.
Oh, they are musicians.
They're musicians, and they were part of a famous Bolivian band that started, I think, in the 70s, right? They understand music and art. Like, they're all about it. So
they opened it as a performance place, not as a restaurant. It became a restaurant and all that stuff. And not only Arabic music there's 4 nights a week, different kind, Cuban, flamenco dancers come dance there, salsa.
So Karen has never performed there.
No, I don't think, Karen, you ever came to some for a long time now.
The last time I was in San Francisco was 2001.
2001.
I wasn't even starting.
No, it didn't start then.
So what are they talking about anything like what it looks like on the other side of the pandemic? It's still there? The place has survived?
They're not allowing live music inside yet in San Francisco. The moment they allow it inside,
it'll get
Actually,
going
I talked
again.
to them recently, and they said we're just waiting for the okay to start again. And the moment they start, we'll start doing it again. Everybody is hungry to go back.
Yeah. I'm sure. So every month you would do that, and you would have different dancers for the most part.
Every month, different dancers. Yeah.
Okay. So that they can just get a flavor for that. I would imagine they would step off stage and immediately see how quickly they can sign up to do it again. Like I can just imagine that. When do I get to do that again, kind of thing? Because that's the thing with the curriculum we do here in San Antonio is it's for a year, and so you can dance to live music many times over the course of that year, because a lot of times you dance to live music and you're like, wow, that was really fun, and I'll probably never do that again for the rest of my life, because it's such a rare thing. Yeah. Okay. So, I said it was my show and I'm a dancer and I'm staying focused on that, but we are going to turn to you for a while now, George.
Again? Okay.
Yeah. So over the course of your time, let's leave it to the United States, since you've been here in the United States and you've done a lot of touring and all. Can you tell us like one or two events or tours that you were on, or places where you played that you see as like really high points?
Oh, absolutely. 2009, I was very happy to receive the call from the great educator and oud and violin player Simon Shaheen, which is I knew actually before that year. I knew we've been talking, and stuff, but we never actually worked together. So he was putting a project together called Aswat. It means voices. And that project was a tour to around 10 different performance places, including the Kennedy Center, including Town Hall in New York, Zellerbach in Berkeley, and many universities around the United States. And that tour had 4 major singers, 2 females and 2 males. And a 21-piece orchestra. So I was part of the string section. 5 strings were, including Simon himself. Of course, Simon was a director and he organized everything. And the tour was the highlight really of my career, because it was focused actually on the golden age era of music. All the songs were sung in that program was from movies done in the golden age in Egypt and Lebanon. That was amazing too. So we were actually, the way we were treated is amazingly, and the sound and working with all the big theaters, it was amazing tour.
That is what right now what's occurring to me is how you did that. And yet just a couple of minutes ago, you said, but whenever you call Karen, I'll be there. Like you'll play at the little Latin dance club that we were at last night too.
And he'll remember the name of Jumpstart Theater.
And he'll remember the name of Jumpstart Theater. Right. Yeah. So, this is just somebody who loves music.
Yeah, exactly.
I
do it for the love of music. Exactly.
Incredible. So that's the highlight, that tour.
Well, of course, I also worked with I told you I have many different groups that are now going on, and also another tour I toured with the Ancient Future. It's a fusion group. We did 16 cities, north, west, another 16 cities, the east, north here too. We played even in New York in the Arabic Culture Center in New York. I remember that time. Yeah, that was also an amazing tour. I mean, there's a lot of things between. Probably I can't remember now.
Right. No, I know. Yeah. When you're put on the spot like that, and I'm sure you've had a lot of great things.
Oh, and also another tour that was amazing. 2016, because we have a group called the Wobbly World. We have 10 musicians from different parts of the world, including Cuba. We were asked to go play for the refugees in one of the islands in Greece. The Greek island called Chalkida. It was refugees from Syria there. That camp wasn't that big. It was 900 people in that camp. We went in there and played inside their tents, and we did a performance for them.
Oh, wow.
I'm the only one, with another guy from Morocco with us, so the only 2 speaking Arabic there. So we were like translating for everybody, because the rest are all Americans with us. It was amazing. Of course, the beauty of those islands were amazing, but the sad part is how to see these refugees and hear their stories. We sat down with them. We drank coffee in their tents, and I played for them their song is the one they love. They
Oh
start
my
singing
gosh.
with me and they start crying.
I bet.
Oh.
I bet. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. At an emotional level, that has to
yeah,
have been like
such
a
a
really
level.
profound experience.
But that was an
Yeah.
amazing experience too.
Mm-hmm.
And I stayed in contact with some of them, and then somehow we're not in touch now to see what's their status.
Yeah, everybody's got interesting stuff going on now, right? So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what's coming up in your future, George, other than being back here in San Antonio in October?
Well, as you see here,
Talk about it.
I make music, or mostly I'd say not 100% original compositions. I've done 6 albums. I'm working on number 7 right now. And this is what I still have one more piece to go on my next album, and hopefully I'm going to finish it soon.
So that's something you've actually been able to continue to work on through the pandemic.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
That's one thing is good. Was kept me busy, kept me creating. Looking forward to that. And I think I sent you one of the pieces I'm working on, which is done, and you are going to be using it. In
I
the next
think
show.
you did.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes,
And
it will
you
be on
already-
the stage in October.
Yeah, you already started choreographing to it.
We have
right?
started choreographing to it. Yes, Cindy, Cash, and I are choreographing that, and yeah,
Great.
actually that class usually meets on Mondays at 7:15. Today is a Monday. It is canceled because you're going to be doing a workshop at the studio. But yeah, we're working on it.
And the funny part when, every time we work on a piece, me and my producer, we name that project we're working on. It's a working project. And he came up with the name Dancing Bear.
Richard?
Isn't that darling?
Yeah,
Dancing
and then
Bear.
when we sent the file for her, it was under Dancing Bear, and she started advertising Dancing Bear.
Because I love
her,
his name. It's so cute, Dancing
It is.
Bear.
I
And
told her-
Karen and cute and quirky names is the thing. So
Okay, we might keep it as it is, as the name, or we can change it. We're not sure.
Well,
Yeah.
because he contacted me, he's like, "Hey, that's really not the name of it. We haven't really named it yet." I was like, "But it's so cute." So
It is cute.
kind of during the conversation, he's like, "Yeah, you're right. Okay, it is kind of cute." So maybe we'll see. We'll see when it all gets published. But watch for it. I bet it's still Dancing Bear.
I bet it is.
Dancing Bear.
So Guylan is making this kind of emotion to me. Like, what a waste to have a podcast with a violinist
Oh, thank
and not
you.
have him play something. So we're probably going to wrap it up here. You want to take us home with a little something, and you can play anything you want. Just tell us about it.
Improvise.
You're just going to improvise. Okay. thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. I know. I think I was holding my breath. Well, thank you for being with me, George, doing a podcast.
My pleasure.
When you're here for other things.
Thanks.
Debbie, thanks for hanging with us.
Of course.
As we did it. George,
Always nice
I will
to be
never
with
lose
you.
you again. So this is Karen Barbie, baby boomer belly dancer, signing out till next time.